You are listening to the Eastern Conference Wednesday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators alongside Mike DiStefano from Locked On Leafs as we continue our Battle of Ontario editions. And now we're 3 weeks into the season. Trends are emerging. Who's for real and who are frauds? We'll get into all that, plus some talk around the Eastern Conference about players returning from long-term injuries. This is the Locked On NHL podcast. Your team every day.
Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen on this Wednesday, November 9th. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. The best way to help the show grow is to subscribe to the Locked On NHL channel. While you're there, make sure you're subscribed to all of our great local shows like Locked On Maple Leafs, where the Leafs all of a sudden have turned the script on their season. They had a great week. They went 3-0-1. Meanwhile, my Senators have now lost 6 straight games. But Mikey, they're not in the news because of how they're playing. They're in the news because they've got a Hollywood celebrity showing up at their games.
Dude, last night I was down at the Leaf game, but I was just perusing Twitter in between intermissions, and I saw the video pop up of the reception that that Ryan Reynolds got. Like, I don't even know who. Like, did they legitimately were like, "Oh, here today, special guest Ryan Reynolds," and he stands up, gets a standing O from the fans. But also the players, dude. We're standing up and doing stick taps on the players. And then a "by the team" chant starts raining down. It was insane. Insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. Down. And I mean, he had already fanned the flames on the fire the night before on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And they get hundreds of thousands of viewers. And they
like
yeah, you're probably right on there. And they posted on their Twitter, the Tonight Show, of course, with Jimmy Fallon, late night TV in the States, all the clips. Like they're kind of like Pat McAfee's show too. They post every single clip they do, and it was like 10,000 views, 20,000 views. The clip they posted of Ryan Reynolds explicitly saying, "I want to buy the Ottawa Senators. I just need people with very deep pockets." He called them sugar mamas.
He needs a sugar mama or a sugar daddy to do it, which is hilarious because I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but then Gary Bettman was forced to use the term sugar mama and sugar daddy when asked if the Ryan Reynolds situation was real, which is just amazing. I've now heard, obviously Reynolds says it, then Bettman. Yesterday on my show, on Leafs Lunch, we got Darren Dreger to say sugar mama and sugar daddy. And then today I got Gord Miller to say sugar mama and sugar daddy. It's unprecedented times in the hockey world where we're talking about sugar mamas and sugar daddies. It's all thanks to Ryan Reynolds. And I think that just goes to show how amazing it would be for the league if they actually do get Ryan Reynolds to be part of this team. Obviously, he's not going to be the majority owner or a sole owner. He needs somebody to back it. But I think for him to be a minority owner, like a 10, 15% stake in ownership with this club, would give this team and would give this league some cachet. And I think that would be outstanding. Like on a legitimate level, it'd be good for business.
And we're seeing that with his other venture, Wexham. It's a Wales soccer team. They've got like a whole Netflix type show about them, and they're really gaining popularity. And what I love is Van City Reynolds is his name on Instagram and Twitter. Like, I always think of him as a Vancouver guy. He mentioned on the Tonight Show, he spent a bit of his childhood in Ottawa. Shout out Vanier, a little neighborhood in town. And he was legitimately cheering for the Ottawa Senators last night, clapping for their goals. Like, to me, that was a big thing. Hey, you could have gone in there and been like, "Hey, I'm neutral, no sides." He's sitting next to Chris Phillips, of all people, in the box, which was hilarious to see as well. But, like, he was actively cheering for the team.
Well, you got to. I mean, you're making a bid to buy the team. You're in CTC. You're in, I'm pretty sure. So that would have been what? The alumni suite probably that he was in, or an owner's box of some kind that he was there taking in the game.
He was with his bankers, by the way. And we have Bruce Garriock coming up tomorrow on Locked On Senators. And he says that where there's smoke, there's fire. But what Garriock told us as well in the full interview, 40 minutes with him, polarizing figure in the hockey world. We got a really good chat. coming up with him. He said that if he's Ryan Reynolds, don't pick any sides right now because there's a lot of interested buyers. There's different parties. Like whoever buys the team, and these are the guys with the deep pockets,
they'll want him in.
Exactly. So don't play your hand too soon. If you're Ryan Reynolds, don't say, yeah, I'm with Desmere Group or I'm with another one. Like just wherever the chips fall, associate yourself with it because it can only help having that well-known of a celebrity as the guy. Like we're already seeing mock-ups on the score of like the Deadpool face inside a Senators logo. It would be unreal for the league.
That would be sick. Could you imagine if they actually did this, like went full Hollywood, like almost like a Bachelor type of show where he picks almost like a Shark Tank meets Bachelor. Yep. He picks the group he wants to partner with to become the new owners of the Ottawa Senators. It would be awesome. It also would be so funny to see happen. But I think it's good for the league, man. I think it's good.
Brady Tkachuk's been trying to be Will Ferrell for years at Halloween. Imagine a mockumentary, get Will Ferrell in the mix there playing Brady Tkachuk. But hey, in all seriousness, this would be huge for the league if having Ryan Reynolds in it. It's already generating a lot of talk. Like I said, I was starting to say each of these videos from that clip had like 10, 20,000. The clip they posted of Ryan Reynolds saying he wanted to buy it sent, 900,000 views on their social. Like it has really taken over ever since People Magazine. I think right after we recorded last week, they were the first to express that he has interest. And then furthermore, he replies to a fan, Casey, a random Sens fan on Twitter saying with the eyeballs over there. And then our boy at Laleem's Martian on Twitter posted Ryan Reynolds taking a selfie. And he goes, you only post selfies when you're having a good time. And Ryan Reynolds replied saying, amen. So he had a good time at the game. He's got his bankers there. And hey, who knows? I mean, the team's officially for sale. They are hoping that they can get a price like the Pittsburgh Penguins did, $900 million. That's a lot to ask for. The team was just valued at like $620. But the X factor in all this is what is LeBreton Flats, the most prime undeveloped real estate in all of Canada, right at the foot of Parliament Hill. What value does that carry if the new arena will be there?
Well, and that's more so an answer that I'm sure you would have more so than I, and maybe that's something that you uncovered chatting with Bruce Garriock when you could get into that, I guess, on Locked On Sens. But I would be curious to see if this does happen. I mean, whatever team's going to buy a franchise, like it's going to be more for whatever a team paid for Seattle. Like it just has to be more than what that fee was, right? Like you're already getting an established team in the National Hockey League. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be far more for whatever, what was it? Sportico put out their rankings for what teams were worth, I suppose, like last week or a couple weeks ago. It's going to be way more than what that was. I can tell you that for sure.
100%.
But we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I'm intrigued. It's a very exciting kind of prospect here for the Ottawa Senators, who haven't been big fans of their ownership in the last couple of seasons or last like couple decades. I think that it would be a real nice change of scenery to have a beloved person like Ryan Reynolds be an owner and be a part of this team.
Quickly, before we move off the subject, what is your favorite Ryan Reynolds movie?
Ooh,
Pilsy and I were unanimous in ours.
I mean, it really depends. Like the movie Just Friends.
That's good. That was my number 2.
Like I watched Just Friends. I've watched that so many times. It's like a must.
Great holiday movie, eh?
Yeah, like it is. It's one of those great movies. I mean, Deadpool was outstanding. Obviously, like the first Deadpool, I thought it was hilarious. I loved it. What was number 1 for you? Swingers is a really good one.
Waiting.
Oh, Waiting. I meant Waiting. I don't know why I said Swingers. Waiting. No. Waiting is I haven't seen it fully. I'll be honest. Haven't seen it fully.
Watch it.
But I've heard that it's outstanding. It's the one with him and Justin.
Well, Dane Cook's the chef. Yeah, Justin Long's in it too.
Yeah, and like there's the one clip where like the girl asks for steak well done or something like that, and they go into the kitchen and do all the funny business with the So that clip I've seen a billion times, but I haven't watched it. But I've heard great things about it. I might try to check that out pretty soon. Actually,
yeah, do it. We're gonna do a full movie report on next week's Locked On NHL, the Wednesday edition. But no, great news in terms of getting anytime you can get Hollywood involved in the NHL, it can only boost the public perception. And yeah, that was a little much. I think a little extra with the standing ovation for 45 seconds.
The players with the stick taps was too much for me. That part I was like that seems so like sad. Like what's the word I'm looking for here? It looked like desperate. It's like, please buy us, please. And they're doing everything they can, including the players on the ice, sitting there clapping, ringing their sticks. It's like,
but who's really courting who? Who's courting who? Ryan Reynolds just flew across the country to do a presser on the Tonight Show, and then he shows up at the rink the next night.
Yeah, that's really funny. That honestly is really, really funny. I hope it happens, man. I really do hope it happens.
Yeah, he's got an open invitation on Locked On Senators, so we'll hold him to that whenever he has the time. I told him the at Vanier Reynolds still available if he wants to switch over from Van City Reynolds.
Maybe Van City. I mean, we've always assumed that it meant Vancouver, but maybe Van City is short for Vanier City, potentially. Maybe you can try and swing it.
Too good. Lots more going on in the National Hockey League and the Eastern Conference, but I would just like to let everyone in Sens Army know that Nikita Zaitsev is on waivers. However, so is Magnus Hellberg, a goaltender who's won 3 NHL games. He started, but Magnus Hellberg, dude, he's started 3 NHL games. He's won 3 NHL games, and they've all been for different teams. Can he make it 4? It's already an NHL record having 3 and 3. He does have the potential to make it 4. We wonder if he'll get picked up as well. But as he waits his turn, of course, he's crushing Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is the best way to start your day. I've noticed a huge difference, not only for myself, but you can see it. Like Pillsy drinks this stuff every single morning, 1 delicious scoop of AG1, and he absorbs 75 high-quality vitamins. You can literally tell he looks healthier, and you can too. It's got whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, starting your day right. So here's the health facts. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, all good. Less than 1 gram of sugar. So no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything. It still tastes good. And you'll like this. It costs less than $3 a day. That's less than your coffee. Just invest in your health. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than all the different supplements. It's one in all nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews. Make it easy for you as well. Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year of supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/lockedon. Let me rephrase. athleticgreens.com/NHL network. That's athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, you're listening to Locked On NHL, the Wednesday edition with Mike DiStefano from Locked On Leafs. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators, and too much Sens talk, but I just want to give a little stick tap. Chris Neil will have his number 25 retired, but that is paling in comparison to the story of the top team in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Bruins, who we thought were going to be without their top players until December, February. When was it going to be? Well, Marchand's already back, and now Charlie McAvoy is expected to return tomorrow when the Bruins take on the Calgary Flames. So where are you at right now with the Boston Bruins? Just kind of the rich get richer, hey?
They're a legit hockey team, a legitimate hockey team. The fact that they were able to weather that storm of missing those guys and come away with it. What are they? They're like 11-2 still right now. 11-2 to start the year. 7-0 at home as well. Unbelievable home record. I think that they're just a gutsy team, and it's a team that has so much character, and they've got such a great culture that it's next man up mentality. They're getting unbelievable goaltending from Linus Ullmark. He's been outstanding for them so far this season, and it's just everybody pulling their weight, right? I think I saw. Going into I guess I should probably look this up, but even going into the weekend before the Toronto games, they had 9 guys with 3 goals or more on the season for the first 10 games. So, I mean, that's just depth, right? You're getting that depth scoring, and everybody's kind of chipping in here and there. You're getting the goaltending, and that's exactly what you need when you have a couple of big boys like Marchand, like McAvoy. Grizzly was out for a while, too, to start the year. Those guys out of your lineup, and I think they're legit, man. They're for real. This is going to be they'll be one of the top teams this season for sure in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, 100%. And it's great to see a team that people had written off. Oh, they're too old. Oh, Krejci's washed up too. But man, they are getting contributions from absolutely everyone. Just like the New Jersey Devils, a team like Trey Matthews from Locked On Devils was saying that he doesn't want to believe yet. Like he thinks it's still too early in the season. Things could fall apart, but that's another team that they just look like they're built in the right direction. They still have a lot of talent coming in a pair of defensemen that haven't even played yet in Luke Hughes and Simon Nemec, 2 top 4 picks in the NHL draft the last couple of years. But like their young core is now like they're here. They're ready to compete.
I thought you were going to try and say my man Shakir's last name, and
No.
I was getting so happy that you were going to make that attempt. Was it Makamadulan? Is it Makamadulan? Mook that's it. Mook Madulin. This is a good team. Like, I don't know why. Like, I was high on them at the beginning of the year. I called them a playoff team at the beginning of the season. I thought they were going to take that step. I didn't think they were going to be, a top team in the NHL. I'll give them that. They've exceeded my expectations. But I like what they were able to build in New Jersey. Like, they've got a good foundation as long as they can stay healthy. Like, I saw a stat the other day that who are the three players? It was Jack Hughes. I want to say it was Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, and maybe Sharon Govich was the other player that they're. No, Jesper Bratt. So it's those three players. They've all been on the roster for the last like 4 or 5 years, but that's just the 12th game in the last 4 or 5 years that they've played together. That's how injury riddled their team has been. Whether it was Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, there was always an injury going on there. Last year, Dougie Hamilton. Goaltending is still very much a work in progress there, but outside of that, man, they've been a terrific team, and it helps your goaltending when you're playing solid defense. And right now, you look at expected goals against, second in the NHL, behind only the Carolina Hurricanes, but they are the second expected goals for team as well, and lead the entire NHL in expected goals percentage. So they have been, like, the underlying numbers suggest that the New Jersey Devils have been playing the best hockey in the entire league, which is insane to think about when you think about what the Devils have been for years now.
Yeah, I mean, they've won 7 in a row. They've won 10 of their last 11, and tomorrow night they'll play a team that hasn't won in 6 straight games. So they've got an opportunity to continue that. Coming up after a quick break, we're going to go through the Eastern Conference teams, and I want Mikey to tell me whether they're for real or are they frauds. And also the most recent first overall pick in the National Hockey League draft, Juraj Slafkovsky. We were waiting on a decision of whether or not he would be sent down or whether he would be, whether they would burn that first year of his entry-level contract. Well, we don't have the answer. We do have the answer for that, but we also have breaking news that we'll get to right after a quick word from one of our favorite sponsors. Stay locked on NHL. You're listening to the Wednesday Eastern Conference edition. You are listening to the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen wherever you get your podcast, including on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to not only Locked On NHL, but all the great shows that our hosts have 5 days a week, like Locked On Maple Leafs, Locked On Senators, and Locked On Canadiens, where they're not going to be talking about Juraj Slafkovsky's contract anymore. He's played his 10th game. He's burned a year. But he's also been suspended for 2 games. Mikey, did you see the hit there against Detroit yesterday?
Yeah, and I'm literally watching it right now, just to remind myself exactly, how things unfolded there. Juraj Slafkovsky with a hit from behind on Red Wings player Matt Luff, and he went hard face first into the boards. It's a really tough play. Like, when you see the numbers like that, like Slafkovsky, he's got to hold up. He's got to pull up there. 2 games, I think, is probably an appropriate amount for a play like that, because that's just not what you want to see in the NHL. And the only way to rid those things out of the league is to penalize them and punish them for doing those. I know he didn't mean to hurt him. He was just trying to make a hockey play, but unfortunately there's still consequences to, actions, whether you meant to do it or not. So, the 2 games, I think it makes sense. I think I'm on board. I think the Department of Player Safety got that one right. Any more, I think, would have been a little egregious. So I'm on board with the department in this one.
Yeah, it's a strange play because he's trying to cross the red line and just kind of chip it in, but he's on the wrong side of it, so he doesn't want it to go all the way for icing. It ends up getting batted down by the defender, but the bouncing puck, he's so focused with his face. It's such a dangerous part of the boards, and I know it's not Joe Louis Arena, so it's not the exact same spot on the same ice, but it's got a little bit of Chris Draper and Claude Lemieux in it. Like, it's not as ferocious, but it's that same distance from the boards, same area in neutral ice. And he's got to understand he's 6'4", and the other guy's not only in a vulnerable position, but he's bending over, and like it's something he's going to learn, I'm sure. But like, I think 2 games is pretty fair for the crime there.
How big is Matt Luff? Just in comparison here, I mean, he's not a small guy actually. 6'2", 195 pounds. So he's not an overly small guy, but he's also still 30 pounds less than Uri Slafkovsky. But yeah, like, it's not too often actually that I'm in full agreement on the perfect number that the department got. So I guess I am on this. I'm definitely in concert with them on this one.
All right. Well, the Montreal Canadiens, after a decent start, they're 5-4-1 now in their last 10. So hitting right around 500, 6-6-1 on the young season. You know who else has come back to earth? The Buffalo Sabres. They've lost 3 in a row, 5-5 in their last 10. Like, are they a fraud to you, or are they just going through a rough patch?
Well, I wouldn't call them frauds. I think they are who we thought they were. I think like a team that's probably going to be on the outside looking in. Like they'll be competitive. They'll win some games. But I don't think I necessarily thought they were going to be a team ready to take that next step. That being said, like they've played a couple of tough opponents. They had to play Carolina and Tampa back-to-back nights over the weekend. Then they did lose to Arizona, which, you know, all great teams lose to Arizona from time to time. Toronto included, obviously, in that conversation. But, you know, I think that they're still a quality team. I like the way that they're built. I think Tage Thompson is an absolute beast. I like Alex Tuch. Their goaltending has always been kind of suspect. Eric Comrie had a great start to the season. But who is Eric Comrie, right? Like, he's a guy who has, I think, less than 50 games played in the NHL, and he's being relied on to be that team's number 1 or 1A, 1B with 42-year-old Craig Anderson. So there's always going to be some question marks with this club. Thought they were maybe overachieving a little bit early on, but they're settling into who we thought they would be. So I don't know if they're fraudulent, but they certainly weren't as good as what they were the first 2 weeks or so of the season.
That's fair as well. Now, another team that's kind of just win one, lose one, and they're dealing with a suspension to one of their players as well. The Florida Panthers, where are you at with them now? 7-5-1 through 13 games.
Where are you at with the Florida Panthers? Because I'm like up and down on them, I guess. Like I projected, I guess it was one of my bold projections on the year, was that they were going to miss the playoffs just based on that blue line. It was like, Aaron Ekblad misses time, things are going to go south. And they kind of have like weathered the Aaron Ekblad injury in a way. I think Tkachuk has been terrific for them, despite being a bit of a donkey on that play on Jonathan Quick on the weekend. But ultimately, they seem to still be getting a lot of offense and like outscoring a lot of their issues. And they're staying up, well, their heads above water, 500 hockey team. I think they're for real. Like they're a team that's going to battle for that third spot / wild card spot in the Atlantic.
Josh Mahura has been a great pickup off waivers from Anaheim for them. I just think their goaltending needs to step up. Like Bobrovsky's got an 897. Even Spencer Knight, he's 4-1. That's great. 903 though. I think that's got to improve. And they're a team that's not going to give up a whole lot of chances. So the goalie's got to be strong and be mentally tough to go 6-7 minutes without a chance and then have to stay strong in goal. So I think I'm still hammered. I'm on the under of their total points. I feel good about that, but I do think they are a playoff team when it's all said and done. Because when I look above them, like we know what the Tampa Bay Lightning are. I'm not worried a second about their 7-5-1 record. Like the Leafs, they'll figure it out. They'll be a playoff team, 7-4-3 on the season for them, but again, have had points in 4 straight games. But Detroit, to me, 7-3-3. Like to me, if I'm circling a fraud, it's them this early on in the season where they are right now.
I would completely agree with you. I don't think that's a team that's going to be sniffing around a playoff spot for for too much longer. Like, I like what they did this offseason. I think, again, it's a team that'll take some steps this year, but they're not a playoff team yet. So that is a bit fraudulent. The fact that they're second in the Atlantic Division right now with a record far above 500, I think they'll definitely come down to earth pretty quickly. So I'm on board saying they might be one of the biggest frauds right now out in the Eastern Conference.
Well, then this was a team that allowed 10 goals or more twice last year and allowed 6 or more goals in like 15 different games. And that trend is still rearing its ugly head. Their last loss was 8-3 to Buffalo. They've had a 6-2 loss this season as well and a 5-4 in overtime, but like they're still just allowing too much. And they've straightened it out during this win streak. They got a shutout involved there, 3-0 over the Islanders, and they've only allowed 6 goals in the 4 games. But it just feels like when the dam breaks, the water flows in like around your hometown down in Niagara Falls. So when you're seeing what this Red Wings team does, I'm not trying to talk down on them. I'm impressed with how they've been able to figure it out. And offensively, they scored 11 goals in the last 4 games. But I need to see it for at least another month and a half before I give them the credit that they probably deserve in this sample size.
And those guys who had such terrific seasons a year ago, not quite living up to the standards, I guess, as for not that it's a sophomore slump, but they haven't quite been what we expected, right? Like Lucas Raymond, 7 goals in 13 games. He's been okay. But Mo Seider, who was, a big story last year, yet to score a goal through 13 games, just 5 assists so far also for him, playing 23 minutes a night. So I think they maybe want to see a little bit more from those younger guys. Dominic Kubalik, however, has been a real good story for them. 16 points through 13 games. He was a good pickup, sneaky pickup this offseason, I thought. Same with David Perron, who's got 8 points so far through 13 games for them. But offensively, like when you look into the underlying numbers, they are the 4th worst team in expected goals for. So they're not generating a ton of offense. And they're giving up a lot, right? They're giving up expected, 27 expected goals against this year, which puts them right around middle of the pack, I guess, ish.
Give me a team in the Metropolitan that you think's a fraud. Is it the Islanders, who are in second place right now at 9-5, or Philadelphia even, who's find themselves, they're in 4th right now, but they got 16 points in 12 games.
Could both be the answer? Can I say both? I'm going to go with Philly, though, as more fraudulence. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Flyers. I still think they're one of the worst teams in hockey. How do I want to say this? John Tortorella has always been known early in his coaching tenure with the club to get the most out of his guys. So I think he's getting the most out of that team right now. And I think Carter Hart has been a good resurgence. He's been a really good story. He's kept them in a lot of games. But if that goaltending takes any sort of dip, this team is going to really falter. Like, they are the 5th worst defensive team in the NHL right now, and the 3rd worst in terms of expected goal differential. So I think this is a fraudulent team. They're getting lucky. They're just getting incredible goaltending right now. I think the league high 936 save percentage at 5-on-5, which there's not even another team with a 900 save percentage at 5-on-5. They're at 936. That's how incredibly lucky they're getting due to strong goaltending play from Carter Hart right now.
Yeah, 100%. They really are. And I saw it firsthand last Saturday. He was unreal against Ottawa, and he's played really well all season so far. But can it continue? Which Carter Hart will we see? The one from this year, or the one that reared its ugly head the last couple of years where he couldn't string 2-3 good starts together? I'm sure our friends over at Locked On Flyers will have lots to say about that. And for the rest of the week, I mean, we got power rankings coming up on Thursday. I'm really curious to see how the Locked On hosts are going to vote for that. And we'll keep it rolling here on the Locked On NHL channel. What are your final thoughts here as we wrap up another great episode? Next week, Mikey, we're going to be recording right after the Hockey Hall of Fame inductions, which is going on Monday in Toronto. Always a great night. Fantastic guys who you got to grow up watching are being inducted in Roberto Luongo, Daniel and Henrik Sedin, and for me, Daniel Alfredson, a guy who I got to see firsthand quite often. It's a great night. I know the women's game gets acknowledged as well, and Herb Carnegie, long overdue for him to be in the building category. So next time we chat, they'll already be inducted. So we just want to give our stick taps to a great group of Hockey Hall of Famers.
Absolutely. And you noted it. Like those are all four.
Little late.
That's a tough applause. You might need to find a new applause sound.
Yeah,
It did not sound very much like an applause.
We'll just get the clip from Ryan Reynolds' standing ovation last night.
That's what we'll get, because that sounded more like you're trying to listen to AM radio and you're going through the woods and it's just not coming through. That's more so what that sounded like on this end, at least. I don't know if over on your end, but absolutely, congrats to all those guys. Very deserving, each and every one of them. And I guess next week we might have to debate who's next for 2023. That might have to be next week's little power ranking we'll have to do on next Wednesday's show.
Spoiler, get Alex McGillney into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
I'll co-sign that one, my friend.
All right, we'll get into some arguments on other guys. Should they or shouldn't they be Hockey Hall of Famers? Thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.